We're going to start with roll call. David Kriegel.
Present.
David Austin.
Also present.
Marcus Cassett.
Here.
Julia Weisenberg is here. Matt Fox.
Here.
Sean Davey.
Here.
Craig Cranford. All right. First order of business is to review and approve the minutes from our meeting on September the 9th. Did everyone get a chance to see those? Jessica circulated. Any comments or discussion on the minutes?
Good.
Good. So would someone like to make a motion then that we approve the minutes
I'll
from
make a motion that we approve the minutes from September 9th.
second, first from David, second from Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we have to act on some bills here. As you saw, we had some postage stamps for the Borough Hall lot line work in the amount of $10.05. We had an invoice from the Times Media, that was our public notice for Fallard subdivision, which is on our agenda tonight. That was in the amount of $64.17. And third, and last, is our invoice from Wayland Feeler, which is our professional lawyer fees, which were rendered in the month of September. And those were in the amount of $2,482. Just to give you an idea of those bills, which I always like to do, the bulk of them were the legal notices or public notices. And then for Rick Whalen, the bulk of that invoice was presence at the last planning board meeting. And the second was meeting and resolution extensions that pertain to DeFau and the Radigan lot line adjustment. And they amounted to about 52% of the bill for being present at the meetings. So if that is okay with you gentlemen, then I'll just need someone to make a motion to approve those three separate amounts. I'm kind of conflating them.
Motion to approve.
Okay, thank you. Second, Sean? All in favor on those invoices?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. All right, we also have to review and act on the West Neck Creek Cottage subdivision extension. So we got some correspondence from the engineer, Matt Sherman. And my understanding is that since they have applied to Suffolk County Health Department Services, obviously for their approval of the minor subdivision, that's still in process. And that's part of their sketch plan of approval requirements. Therefore, we do have the power based on 111-43 of our town code to grant that applicant extension of 6 months. And Matt Sherman did ask us for that. So the extension would give them until April 14th, 2026 to meet the conditions that are set forth in that first sketch plan. So if that is okay with everybody, then I would just need everyone who's in favor of that.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve,
Second.
everyone? Second, Marcus, thank you, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, that motion carried on the West Neck Creek Cottage subdivision extension. All right, we also have tonight Trudy Fowler Trust subdivision, public hearing. Just get that out here. Is everyone okay if I'll just go ahead and read the public hearing? Okay. Public hearing regarding the application of 2012 Trudy Fowler Trust owner for approval of a preliminary subdivision application which would divide the 16.142 acres, which is approximately 703,148 square feet of land on the west side of Nostrand Avenue with frontage on Shelter Island Sound into 5 lots. The subject property is situated in District AA, residential, and within the Nearshore Overlay Peninsula District, as shown on the official zoning map of the town of Shelter Island. The premises are identified on the Suffolk County tax map as parcel Suffolk County tax map number 0700-013.00-01.00-014.001. The subject application is classified as a type 1 action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review. We know that is SEQR, Part 617 of the New York Code of Rules and Regulations, and Chapter 60, Environmental Quality Review of the Shelter Island Town Code. And the planning board, as lead agency, has made a negative declaration pursuant to SEQR. That was done in our last meeting. So, yes, Rick.
Chairman, we received an affidavit of service of notice on behalf of the property owners. We have received an affidavit of posting of the property. I reviewed them and both of them appear to be in proper form.
Perfect, thank you. Jessica, did we receive any correspondence regarding this? I did not, as chair, receive any correspondence as well. Okay. is the applicant's representative here, Carl Benacasa. Would you want to start this? Just identify yourself, of course.
Good evening, Carl Benacasa, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York, for the applicant. As the chair noted, the submission for preliminary approval was this 5-lot subdivision. In line with the sketch plan approval, it calls for 10% preservation achieved through this conservation easement, which council and I, as you might recall, had some back and forth whether that was an appropriate mechanism. Ultimately, it was determined to be an appropriate mechanism for the preservation of the code. As noted, in August, you assumed lead agency under SECRA and issued a negative declaration. Accordingly, we are here for the public hearing under the preliminary application. Again, I would note the lot has a yield under code under the AA district of 8 lots, and we are only proposing 5. So this is reduced yield as far as subdivisions go. The conservation objectives of the code are achieved through that easement, which we previously noted. The building envelopes ultimately will call for setbacks in line with the zoning regulations and the 100-foot setback from the crest of the dune. Although it is a major subdivision under the code, it's very straightforward. It's reduced yield, and we're happy to entertain any questions you've got. I know we've been talking about this subdivision for some time, so a lot of it's old news to you. I would note that although the conservation easement ends at about 55 feet, beyond that, the proposal is for a building setback from each of the terminations of the easements of 25 feet on every lot except for lot 4, where the sketch plan called for a 20-foot setback. I'm happy to entertain any questions the board may have.
Carl, just to clarify, in the last meeting, you did mention publicly that you might go for another 8. 8, is that?
Well, we had discussed the last thing we discussed was the opportunity to go for an additional setback on lot 4. Is that what you're talking about?
I think
Yeah, increasing the setback from the easement on lot 4. What we had discussed was permitting initial disturbance and then revegetation, because there would be construction in proximity to that.
That sounds accurate to me.
Yeah.
That wasn't specific to one lot, what, was it?
I think it was.
Was?
one lot. But he.
Because the other lots
had
have
offered to
very
That's
revegetate.
the other ice, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
That was the one that has the 20.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's like it does.
Gotcha.
But they had agreed to revegetate on the setback,
Yep.
on the building setback, the
We had
20.
discussed that as a possible compromise, allowing us to disturb it, but then revegetate. As I have mentioned numerous times throughout this application, this is not the application of the developer, though that isn't necessarily relevant. This is a family, all of whom, the extended family, 3 generations are present tonight. I think some would like to speak with you. The ultimate ownership of these lots will remain in the family.
It just might be of interest to the public. I mean, we've obviously gone over this many, many times, but in terms of the wetland, the setback from the bluff,
The 100-foot
the
setback.
100-foot set, they're not per se entertaining anything up into like up into the bluff area.
That's correct.
Okay. Just want to make
There was a discussion of a dock, but that would be in line with your dock regulations. So that wouldn't necessarily be your consideration. But no upland structures would be proposed. Obviously, under code, could not be occurring within that 100-foot setback.
I'm fine with it, again, because we've done so many times
Yeah,
previously.
yeah.
You know, we're okay with it, but we might want to open it up to the public who are here present, obviously.
And I'm here to answer any additional questions you may have on the land use.
I mean, I have general questions about how the family sees the future of the lots, but should the public go first? Or what's
I believe there are family members here, so
I know.
it might behoove us to listen first, and then,
Okay.
yeah, we can engage them at that point.
Amy, Madam Chair.
Yes.
My name is Douglas Knight. I am the grandson of the late Robert J. Fowler. of which the 2012 Trudy Fowler Thomas Trust, Trudy, my mother being here as well, is the applicant. And Carl did a magnificent job of explaining the tangibles, and I love, having been a former planning commissioner myself, when we go to a hearing and there aren't very many questions and there isn't a lot of testimony, because that means, in my mind, that a lot of conversation has already occurred at the community level as well as within the board. And I think that's all very beneficial and to be commended, actually. As I mentioned, the tangibles being 5 lots, the yield being such that the density of the proposed subdivision is quite a bit less than what ordinarily you might see and even expect. And that is because our family loved Shelter Island, has been here since 1887. John, you were asking about a little bit of the history, and I'll give you that now, wherein William Ulmer initially moved from Brooklyn here to Shelter Island in 1887. William Ulmer, as it turns out, is my great-grandfather and Robert Fowler's grandfather, Mr. Robert Fowler's great-grandfather, Robert. So in 1887, William Ulmer bought 1,500 feet of shoreline property from John C. Nostrand, a Brooklyn civil engineer who owned the development on West Neck called West Neck Park. And if you've seen some of the initial subdivision maps of that era, you would be shocked to learn that the full development comprised 230 villa sites, or 800 lots. And it ran from Stearns Point southward all the way towards today Bootlegger's Alley, and on to even include parts of Silver Beach. And I don't mention that because we would ever propose such a monstrosity, but I mention it because I think it's illustrative of what the mentality of the time was, which was that they would want to maximize everything. Our mentality within the family is rather to be good stewards of the land, to be good members of the community, as we have been for now 7 generations. I think it's interesting to note, and by the way, I'm reading from an excerpt of an article that was submitted to the Shelter Island Reporter on the 2nd of November, 1992. So my grandfather wrote what's in my hand for public consumption, actually, as it would be 7 years before his death. He goes on to read, as the island became more popular, many improvements were made, but it remained largely undeveloped, a charming country escape from the hustle bustle of city life, which it remains even today. And so in 1992, that was the description that my grandfather made of the island. And that's the description that I continue to say when asked about Shelter Island. In fact, this mimeographed information is information that we give to all of our guests when they come to visit Shelter Island. So I think the words there that I wanted to focus on is that it remains largely undeveloped in a charming country escape. So as much as we can talk about the tangibles, we can talk about the reduced density, we can talk about how that it's quite a bit less onerous upon the land than what would be a larger subdivision. I think the intangible of what we want to make sure we're communicating and that we definitely focus on as part of the larger picture here is that largely undeveloped. It doesn't say that we're not going to have development. It says that we're going to do it in a respectful way and that we're going to make sure that we do it in a way that doesn't affect the charm of our community. I promised my grandfather that I would never develop the tree tunnel, and that's largely why we chose as a family to create the open space along Nordstrom Parkway, to have that private parkland setback away from the right of way as it is in the contiguous tree tunnel. There's only one other place on Shelter Island where there's a tree tunnel similar to that. So I think it definitely deserves respect and deference. And the subdivision as it's configured does that. So without any further comments, I didn't have anything prepared, but I thought I'd share this article from the report. To explain a little bit about the family and its history and also the philosophy that the family has. None of these lots will ever be sold. They are for individual family members, of which all of my nieces here. He's traveled all the way from San Francisco to join us. I would love it if you would say so. I don't know, put you on the spot, but yeah, just
I mean, to be,
Well, you have to come up to the, and just identify yourself, please.
By the way, Douglas G. Knight, 39 Nostrum Parkway here in Shelter Island.
Thank you.
no, it's okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Altina, a descendant of obviously everyone in this room that's related to the Fowler family. I have grown up spending every summer on Shelter Island, watching it grow, watching it develop, watching more families come to the island, but I've always loved that the land that we've had has stayed mostly the same. And I've loved the fact that my family has gotten to enjoy time there. And my brother, who's not currently here, my younger brother, also spent every summer here. So this island is so important to my family, and also I can't wait to have kids and grandkids spend more time here and continue on the generations. And I feel so blessed that our family even has this opportunity to divide sublots and to have this land that we have and have it mostly also protected and remained undeveloped. So I thank you all for even considering this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
I'm gonna have some questions, but
I just want to make sure, so there's no one else in the audience, public, anyone who's not related to the family who would,
Anybody in Zoom?
anyone on Zoom? Zoom, no? Okay. So David, you can ask a question.
yeah, I mean, there's sort of philosophical questions about the family, if there's a collective view about how you develop things and how you see the architecture and what's special about Nostrum Parkway, because, you know, of course, what's special about parts of Nostrum Parkway is that there aren't any houses. So to develop it with respect to that is, of course, a challenge, because it will no longer be an undeveloped stretch. It'll be a stretch much more like the rest of Shelter Island, which is, you know, has a certain density. So I think I asked the question at the last hearing about, well, what's the vision of the houses and the approach to development? Where would they be sited? And I don't think that you'd reach that.
Yeah, I think that's a little premature. Right now, they're dividing the lots. I don't think they've made ultimate decisions. Well, I can tell you that I've spoken with the family. They haven't made concrete plans for future development. This is about dividing ownership respectively and for use in the future. So I appreciate the question, but I don't think we have an answer right now, nor do I think the board's necessarily entitled to an answer.
I think you said that last time too. So I mean, I love the notion of good stewardship of the land and respectful development, but what does it mean to you? If anyone wants to be the spokesman of that question.
Would you like?
I just want to introduce myself. I'm Shirley Fowler Thomas, and the 2012 Trudy Fowler Trust was a trust I set up so that this could go on and I could rest in peace that the family was going to be in charge of the land. And so we don't have any intention of selling to outside people. I wanted to set up a trust that where I felt sure that my 4 grandchildren, 2 in the Nuff family, 2 in the Knight family, would ultimately know that this is being saved for them. And so perhaps this would clarify why we don't know about styles of homes yet, because we have still one in college and one planning to go to med school, and another in graduate school at the University of Colorado in environmental policy, who wants everything green. And so we plan to be good stewards of the land. And so while I had a chance and was still alive, I wanted to have a way of forming this with an intention that more likely could be realized because of the legal aspects of how it could be done. I don't know if that helps.
Well, it's a great sentiment. It doesn't give me any more of a vision of what might be there in 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years, but I mean, it certainly seems like you're going to do your best to make it.
At this point, we're trying to figure out communication within the family and working it out as to which family gets which part, and working with the lawyers, considering things like the conservation aspects and whatever. So as far as the Fallard House is concerned, that is really the only structure that's on the property right now. The little house in the woods.
Is that the one on the site plan here?
Existing.
Yeah, I mean, there is a question because elements of that kind of straddle two lots. And I think it's the driveway goes across and the overhead power lines, but is there a discussion about whether those two lots would be merged or whether you would reconfigure the approach to the site via the driveway so it doesn't go across your neighbor?
Well, the neighbor would be a family person.
I think Penny, you can,
So I think it's helpful to, hi, I'm Penny Nupp, and introduce my mother. So, David, you may call me David.
You certainly may, unless you're not feeling this positive.
You know, so it's super helpful if we start at perhaps a higher level. In the aggregate, the family owns about 72 acres on Shelter Island. This 16-acre parcel is part of that. Over the last dozen years, we've done a lot of estate planning. And there's really only 3 members of this family, the Nutt family, the Knight family. So in this estate planning, my brother and his family now own the acres across the street, the 50 acres across the street, which is one large parcel with one house on it. And he also owns a house down the road that, you know, I had my wedding, I had a wedding at 39 Nostrand Parkway. So the master plan is to recognize that we are so grateful and fortunate to have this land be in the family as long as we have. Part of great estate planning, because this is what I do for a living, is to make sure that Alta's generation, it doesn't die with her. So the estate planning that we have done, the fact that my brother's family owns the acreage across the street and the other 2 homes, the fact that this is in trust and graciously set up by my mom for the benefit of, 3 lots for the benefit of my family and Alta and her brother, 2 lots for the benefit of my brother and his children. We did that so that we can keep this land in the family for another 100 years. I know that, Sean, that you're a family law attorney or you have some expertise in that area. The benefit of these amazing abilities to put this land in trust means that it will stay, this land in particular, that we're talking about today, will only distribute out to Alta's children after they have 21 years after her death, and she's 22, so I'm hoping she'll be around another 80 years. And so we're talking at least 100 years, and then, but the land across the street was graciously set up by my brother, his family. It's for his children and his grandchildren that are not even born, and will only distribute out after those grandchildren die and 21 years after their death. So it's really another 125 years. So one of the things that we learned from my grandfather and my grandmother and the family is that we're very, very grateful, and we want to be able to preserve this, which in today's world is a rare circumstance. And again, I spent my first birthday here on Shelter Island and almost all of birthdays since then. And because of that, we feel very strongly about trying to preserve it and develop it in a very thoughtful way. So thank you for listening.
Thanks, Patty. Thank you. I'll just add to that, that was very gracious. But you still haven't had your question answered.
I've sort of given up on it.
Don't give up. You should know that I was, in addition to being a planning commissioner, also the vice chair of our local landmarks commission in my community of Bend, Oregon, which I have lived during the school year now for 30 years. And with that comes a deep understanding of context, of understanding what the language of the neighborhood is, like you so aptly mentioned. And I don't expect any development pattern to be any different than what's already there, what exists already further to the south on the Strip. I would expect my children, having been indoctrinated into historic homes and the value that they bring, and the charm and the character that they bring to communities, to continue that. Now, having said that, I've also built a modern house for myself. I know that Penny is contemplating a modern house. Dick Tarlow, just down the road, has a modern house, and those have become a part of the fabric of West Neck and also National Parkway and neighborhood. So I don't think that that's out of context, especially since there is existing precedence there. But just know that it's going to be done in a tasteful way. And one of the reasons that we are proposing a 5-lot subdivision is exactly that we are copying the context and the fabric of the existing development pattern that exists elsewhere on National Parkway. We're not trying, even though the development code, as I said before, may allow 7 lots, that would be disrespectful in my mind, because it would be a change to that fabric that has larger parcels than just 2 acre parcels. So I hope that.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, I agree with you that, I mean, as an architect personally,
I could tell.
who do, modern buildings,
Yeah.
but I also have a 65-year-old wooden boat, so,
Yeah.
that I have sort of span. I think the issue of context here and in many places is more about size than about architectural vocabulary. And that's, and of course, there's little as a planning board we can say about the size of a house because it's legislated elsewhere.
Yeah.
But that's my biggest concern.
Square feet and, yeah.
30,000 square feet of house is a lot of construction, so.
I don't think we would ever submit an application for 6,000 feet. Can't speak for everybody.
Right.
Right? There'll be individual lots.
Yeah.
I hope that helps.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
I would just add that, the aesthetic and the corridor that you are seeking to preserve exists because of the stewardship of this family. So I think that's a good indication. I have nothing else.
I had one question from our last discussion on this. And it relates to, I believe it's lot number 5, the largest one. Yeah. There had been discussion that had enough area to potentially be divided at some point. Is that correct or not correct?
We never discussed that.
No.
Well, I'm talking about, does it have enough area to satisfy if one were to?
Greg, I think you brought that up at a previous session where you asked if that could be a stipulation that it would not be subdivided again.
I did.
You mentioned that in
I
discussion.
just can't remember I don't have the drawing in front of me, and I can't read the area. So,
The area is
it was lot
187,445. Lot 5.
So yes.
so that's what.
Yes, it could be potentially subdivided.
But that's go to the planning, you have to go through
Yeah, but I have to,
So
the
my,
process.
yes, but my request at the last meeting was that if they were asking for the 5, that should be future-proofed so that they could not come and ask for a further subdivision.
I mean, if we can discuss that, I think Mr. Austin is right in that.
Be back here.
Determination of the planning board, so you have to go through this process again. And if the planning board at that point has issues or additional requirements, they can be discussed.
But if the zoning doesn't change, then they couldn't stop you from creating a 6th lot.
Yeah,
So
That's why I brought it up at the previous meeting.
Yeah.
As a
I
reasonable.
don't remember having this, maybe it was a meeting that was it just to set this hearing? That meeting?
I just remember Greg bringing it up, but I can't at this moment pinpoint where it was.
We waited till you had gone.
You wait until I left to have this discussion.
No, I think it might have been,
No, I just.
it's not a public meeting, but, well, that's Greg, so that's Greg's question. Do you have a?
I think I should,
Think about
talk,
it?
and I can talk with the family and submit a written response to it.
I'm sufficient on that. Anybody else?
I mean,
Right.
consistent with what you've talked about, it would seem that that's probably an easy give, but fair enough that you have
I just- I have to
to,
ask.
fair enough that you have to discuss that. I think if we can say the 8 that you discussed is kind of a given as part of what we've agreed to. You clearly have a lovely family, and in many ways, at least personally, I'm excited to see, kind of land pass through generations with people that seem to be, have the right mindset. I would just leave you with, we only have so much control within our current remit and regulation. You have said you are conservation minded, and you have, I think it was a grandson or someone who is kind of, be mindful of your use of the property as you move towards development. It's beautiful. There are lots of trees. People dismiss the value of trees, and I think you appreciate. And I think that we've tried to give enough buffer to retain the character of that line, that it would hate to see the character beyond that line then just, kind of become something different that is clearly within your own power, but you seem to speak to, you love the nature here and what you want to do, and just be mindful of your care of the land because it's a beautiful property. So thank you.
So I will confer with them and respond.
Sure, that sounds good, Carl, thank you.
This will be held open for written comments, I'm assuming?
I was gonna offer that we close it now.
Yeah, we can close it.
We can leave it open for
Certainly
written
go.
comments, hence, because Greg just asked that one question.
Comment period.
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah.
How's everybody feel about that?
Feel good about that. That's great.
Except for written correspondence?
No.
Good, okay.
I would do a voice vote just on the
Yeah.
exact, I want to know
Yep.
how long the hearing is open for, what it's open,
That's
what
fine.
it's open for, till when.
So I think we should leave it open for 10 days for written correspondence? Is that okay for you, Carl?
That's great.
I'll second that.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Is that a written comment from anybody?
Yeah, because we're leaving it open for written comments, so technically from anyone, then, yeah.
Thank you, Valerie.
Yes, thank you for everyone.
We spoke to close. And is there just a work session after this meeting later about this topic, or is it? Are we allowed to go?
It's on the agenda for a work session, but it's a work session, so we would be discussing it amongst ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we know participation.
You can
No
listen,
participation, you can listen, but,
Yeah, okay. And that's after your regular agenda.
yeah, that's,
Yeah,
we have it listed here. Although I think it would behoove us to probably get Carl's response on that Greg's question about the
Before we.
lot
I think he's
four.
probably asking, should they stay? My guess is no, I think we're good.
I'm thinking probably not. I personally prefer, but I don't want to speak for everyone on the planning board. I'd like to
Yeah.
wait for Carl to get back to me about that.
So you'll adjourn the work session, today's work session.
No, it's on the work section discussion,
But there's
only if
other
it was
5 other
closed,
ones,
but we closed it
Closed it.
open for correspondence, so we have the right then to not discuss it, since we're pending other things. So,
I'm sorry, I think the question is there going to be further discussion today so they can just go?
right, I'm going to say probably not, is
No?
that, but I'm
Okay.
asking everyone else right
Yeah,
now. Is that
I mean, I'm good, I don't need to
Yeah,
go further.
We can wait till next.
I think let's wait, so this way you wouldn't have to stay then.
Yeah, I mean, we'd like to participate in the form of beers.
Yep.
For the work session, if that's gonna occur. It sounds like that'll happen later.
It'll be in the next month's meeting, November meeting.
But the rest of this meeting could be very exciting.
Maybe you'll want to stay.
You may want to comment on some of those applications.
Wait, I just want to make sure Carl's wrapped up. Okay, so I need someone to make a motion that we close our business meeting.
Motion to close?
Close, second.
Closing the public hearing.
We just did that. I'm closed.
Did we close the subdivision though?
Yes, we just closed it,
Closed,
pending
okay, so we're
10
closing
days
the
of
public-
written
okay, got
correspondence.
it.
That's why I'm
All right.
asking for a motion to close the business meeting, sorry. And I just got two, so all in favor, second. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Yes,
when is our next meeting?
18th.
yeah,
It's not.
November
It'll be
18th.
on the third Tuesday of November? Yes,
Jessica, is
November
it
11th.
November 18th, just confirming?
Because it's Veterans Day.
It's 18th.
We're a week behind because of the holiday.
Oh, because of the holiday, Rick.
So I understand the next discussion that will occur regarding the Fowler subdivision will be
November 8th.
November.
Correct.
Right. We'll check in via Zoom or whatever.
Rick, I see some thoughts there. Are you okay with that, or?
Yeah.
Just want to make sure,
Trying to get my calendar.
like you wanted to say something else.
So, yeah,
He's worrying about himself.
the second Tuesday of November is Veterans Day, so we will not be meeting.
Can't meet, right?
So we're gonna meet on the 18th.
Correct.
It's not on the.
Thanks, everybody.
Remember that one thing, just as a reminder,
That's a holiday.
Veterans Day, it's a holiday.
remember that once the record closes, we have 62 days to render a decision. So you'll have to make a decision at the next meeting, because I have to write a resolution.
I'm expecting us to make a decision. Okay,
We will.
all right. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead now with our work session agenda. All right, so we have the Radican lot line adjustment, which is still waiting on Health Department approval, and they have until December 9th, 2025. DeFauer and Shearer, we just did that extension, all right, and they are as well waiting on Health Department approval. Same date, December 9th, 2025. Under our subdivision applications, we have the Bloom Minor subdivision. I did get some information on the Bloom application. I saw Barbara in the office earlier, and she indicated that they have started discussions with Suffolk County Water Authority to get that pipe in there. However, they are now going with the Suffolk County Health Department to see how that will actually unfold. So that's where they're at right now, and that's why we still have the delay. And we just did their extension at the last meeting in September. West Neck Creek Cottage subdivision, we just completed that during our business meeting. We granted them an extension, if you'll recall. So, because they were due actually today, October 14th. Fowler, we're not going to go ahead with that because we just gave them to the next meeting and we issued them a 10-day extension for written correspondence. Next up, Crescent Beach LLC, minor subdivision. So we had Rick Wesnowski prepare an engineer's memo on the latest updated submission from Crescent Beach LLC. And we have Mr. Bennett here for that.
I have extra copies unless everybody has one.
I have mine. Does everyone have that with you?
Is it in here?
It was in your folders. in the office. It was actually also sent on email as Rick's memo, Rick Wesnowski, as opposed to Rick Whalen, we got that like early this morning. I think so it was in your inboxes early this morning. But Rick, I'm going to give you an opportunity to,
We just got that this morning.
we just got the
Yeah.
engineer's
Thanks,
memo.
Just one thing.
But again, it's just based on the updated, the updated submission from October 7th, I think, John, right? John, Mr. Bennett's from October 7th? Yeah. Okay. Rick, do you want to like just bring us through a discussion on the engineer's memo for that?
Basically, the memo is in response to the memorandum that was issued by you guys, the planning board, dated May 14th, 2025. I had asked the applicant to provide an updated map showing the house on lot 1 on the sketch plan, including the building envelope and anything else related to the house, which I took as driveway, pool house, retaining walls, et cetera, showing the proposed subdivision lines on the sketch plan. Yeah. Sketch plan. So that. I only have 11 by 10 copy, so it wasn't clear to me where the drive was located, but on this part, where the driveway exits onto Shore Road. A large copy of the US, a large copy of the Hollander landscape, new veg plan provided. Larger clear drawing showing the area disturbance in the wetlands. It's not really on the sketch plan, but you can see on the Hollander plan, they show proposed limits of disturbance during construction and the other side vegetation post construction. All the structures are located outside the 100-foot setback from the wetlands, and then disturbance is all 75-foot landward of the wetlands. Wetland boundaries clearly on one map and everything else requested. That's all shown on this sketch plan. The proposed driveway marked some point of reference. On the sketch plan, you can see that their utility poles are located along the easterly side of Shore Road. And then we asked for count on lot 1 of what's going to be cleared for the retaining walls, and then also what's going to be cleared within the between 75 and 100 feet the buffer of the wetlands. The applicant responded saying that that was not part of sketch requirements. It's at sketch plan phase, so we're going to table that for the next submission. I believe they have answered all your questions on your memorandum and recommend approving the sketch plan.
I have a question. I wasn't around when this was submitted. Have you guys been lead agency at this point?
Yeah.
All right. So to me, before you take any action, I mean, approval of sketch plan is still an action. You need to have you need a beta secret determination if you're going to be the lead agent. So the only involved agencies in the subdivision themselves, the health department, and I believe the New York State DEC, Title Wetlands, to regulate subdivisions. So you should, in my view, the first thing you should do, the first order of visit is declare yourself the lead agency if that's what you want to do.
Well, if that's the case, we have to send out the typical letters to the involved agencies. I believe we had your office do that, Rick,
Yeah, we did that for Fowler.
if it felt.
Yeah, I believe that was after sketch plan was approved.
No, they just did their sketch plan, that, we just did this, that was sketch.
This was preliminary, it was preliminary.
No, we're discussing Fallard, not yours, Fallard. So,
Fowler was preliminary, right?
Yeah.
The sketch plan had been approved.
Right. Yeah.
Preliminary.
So we're at the stage right now where we should do those letters then. Is that something that your office would be willing to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
for us? Okay. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
Other members?
I don't see anybody else who'd be lead.
No. we-
No, but everybody's
Quite
gonna take a
obvious.
step back, be standing up.
Need to do that formally. I make a motion that we're,
Yes.
you're for lead agency.
Yeah, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Barring the responses or non-responses from those other agencies. Typically, if they don't respond within 30 days, it's a default yes, so.
If I may, I 30 days.
They're saying that they choose.
It's about,
I've seen the help.
yeah, it's just about doing the process, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's gonna happen, correct?
Correct, yeah,
The application's pending.
this office is gonna handle that. The only thing I wanted to add, Rick, on your memo is that under this section where you said this, the subdivision obviously is subject to approval from Suffolk County Health Department and services for water supplies and sanitary system, it would probably behoove the applicant to check in with the Heights Properties Owners Corp. Because I think we had a representative from that group last time, so that's something else that I would probably add to that. Because the hookup in the existing capacity depends on some stipulations from
That's a
them.
good point. I wasn't thinking about that, but
Have you heard of the people?
Oh, sure.
That has not, John Dennehy, that's nothing to do with sketch plan approval. I've reached out to Heights, we're having a discussion with them despite the fact that there's public water available in the street. They want us to pay to upgrade it. That's the sort of thing that you look at down the road. Sketch plan approval is to enable the subdivider to save time and expense in reaching general agreement with the planning board as to form and layout and objectives of your subdivision regulations. It's not defined in your code, but Terry Rice in his commentary on town law, section 267, defines this term sketch plan as a rough design map which provides the developer and the board an opportunity to discuss the plans and make alterations before preliminary plat. So this is where we are. This has been with you for 10 months now. I'm sad that no one advised you before, as Rick has properly advised you, that you should coordinate if that's what you want to do. But in any event, we've shown you more than enough information. You have the house on the lot, which is really just a placeholder right now. This is a house that has approval from, now expired approval from the ZBA. We didn't move forward because the town had refused to grant approval, and the Supreme Court directed that the town grant approval. The town appealed. That appeal was argued in April. We're waiting for determination. I'll just add, never say never. It didn't go well for the town in the argument. But we'd like.
just refresh my memory, what was the ZBA?
The ZBA rules paid because it's on
It's a grade.
it's in a grade, and if you take it from grade, doesn't.
It was a high variance on there.
And then there's, well, all the approvals I've given you. But we'd like to be able to move forward as soon as possible with your general agreement as the lot design. I don't know, candidly, I don't know where else that these lots could go. Your town code doesn't talk about subdivision regulations, doesn't talk about slopes, have paired lots as if the code did it. I think that's the better plan. There's the waterfront lot, and then there are the two lots up near the top, flatter area, by far the flatter areas. So I understand you have to send out a letter, you have to coordinate, take lead agency status, but we'd like you to move towards sketch plan approval as quickly as possible. Unless there are any questions that I can answer.
I was just going to add that we haven't seen you in some time. I think we had an adjournment, but you asked for an adjournment twice. So the reason I asked Rick to just mention that thing about the Heights properties owners. The last time we saw you, we didn't know that you had spoken to them. So this is good information, new information. I appreciate that you.
No, we had, but I just want to make it absolutely unequivocally clear that I'm not going to come to terms with the Heights. You can't tell me to come to terms with the Heights as a condition to granting that sketch plan approval. I know I have to bring public water in, we're going to deal it, and we want conditions, but that should not hold up sketch plan approval.
I'm not necessarily saying it would.
Okay. Well, it shouldn't. Okay, thank you. That's all I have. I would just ask that you move as quickly as possible. It's a sketch plan application that was filed, I think the original memo. Usually to take the sketch plan for a 3-lot subdivision now. Thank you, though. I appreciate it. You have a good lawyer at the helm right now who can guide you through the secret process. Thank you very much.
Anyone else want to ask
I'm
anything?
gonna have some questions, but I don't know, like, tell me when you're ready, kind of thing.
I'm ready. You can ask anything you want.
So, and I don't know if we want to open it up to council to answer. And I apologize, I think some of the overlays are different and labeled somewhat differently, so apologize if I'm missing something. So bear with me. The driveway and the subsequent parking area are all outside the 100-foot from that angle.
Yes.
There appears to be below that a revegetation area, if I'm reading it properly.
I'm going to look at, isn't it? But again, these are more site plan issues.
Yeah, and so part of like, I mean, I'd love to get some answers. I think there is a fundamental question, and I appreciate that maybe as where we are in this stage, we can answer these later and they're not conditions, but,
That's fine.
you know,
You'll get transcript.
fair enough. Yep.
I understand. They're appropriate questions. You get the answer. It's going to be mostly here if you want to. Yeah, well, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm actually on a computer science. So I work with John through the whole thing there, and also obviously the computer science sketch plan here. So if you have a question about the.
So below the parking area, the checked area, I believe that means that it's revegetated?
Yes.
And so what is that? I mean, why revegetated? Are you clearing trees and replanting ornamental? Like, what is the?
I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Yep. What is the need there to do that?
In order to make sure that the driveway slopes properly and that the parking area slopes properly, because everything in this area is extremely steep.
Yep.
So in order to make sure that things drain properly, slope properly, you have to sometimes clear more land than what you intend to use, but then they will revegetate it with not just grasses, but also trees and shrubs. And so that was.
But that is, the revegetation ultimately falls within the 100-foot buffer. It encroaches into that space.
Correct.
Right? And so hence, I recognize there is no requirement for a tree count and, you know, we don't need to beg, borrow, or like, you know, how that is. But I think part of it is when you encroach into that space where you're regrading, and then also at the back of the house where you are requiring I believe a 25-foot work area. The question is, how much are you destroying in order to make that happen? And then what is the real revegetation plan in that it says revegetate? I don't believe, and maybe it is at a different stage, but bear with me if you're willing to have the conversation, is I believe we had a revegetation plan forwarded to us that was in tiny, tiny little font, you know, at the back of something. So we never really saw and could make out what is it that you are planning to revegetate with.
These are more questions
Right.
for an application, for a wetlands application too. Those are site plan application questions, which will be answered at the appropriate stage. but they have nothing to do with sketch plan approval. And I'll remind you that these very plans are plans that the Supreme Court directed to be approved. And the town has appealed, and we'll see what happens there.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna pull
bear
back
with
there
me.
now, I'm just, what I'm saying in terms.
Bear with me, and I appreciate.
I know, no, because I quite candidly object. These are clearly appropriate questions to ask on a site plan if we're before whoever it is who has it these days, the wetlands jurisdiction. I
That's
guess,
us.
back with the town board.
Well, it's the
You, who knows, next week it might be back with the town board. And I say that in a sympathetic way because I think it belongs here. But those are questions that are more appropriate to the more specific site plan application. The questions will be asked by you. You're entitled to ask those questions at the appropriate time. They will be answered, and we'll have to work that out.
Yeah, fair enough. I do have one more question, and you can choose to answer it or not, and I appreciate that there is a court case pending. For me personally, and don't think we need to try to litigate it in this forum because we are clearly not the appropriate parties to do that. I think there is some question in my mind as to the court approved something, but the nuances of the incursions into the wetland may not have been appreciated or absolved of do as you will. And so I think we're trying to understand how we can manage what we think you have been approved for to what a reasonable outcome. Just bear with me with the one more question. In the back of the house, there is a white area that appears to be not intended for revegetation, as far as I can tell, but is part of that 25-foot. Are you willing to explain, and if you choose not to, that is your choice, are you willing to explain, is that an intent not to revegetate, and so it's going to be, your intention is lawn? Yeah, lawn or something of the sort, or what is that? Because when we move into to disturbing 25 feet of wetland vegetation that is protective and serves a lot of different purposes, I'm surprised that there is no revegetation that area specifically.
I would rely on my prior response in terms of the more specific questions that you can ask on if this approval ever comes back to you. I will suggest in terms of, and these are all based upon the plans that were approved, the court directed the issuance of the permit for this. I think that those are questions that would probably be, and you can ask the questions in a executive session because there is pending litigation, but I think those would more properly be directed to your counsel in an executive session, to which I would not object because there is pending litigation.
Fair enough. Appreciate your indulgence. I was hoping that we could just be transparent and.
Well, I'm being very transparent. We with the board, this town had the ability, not you, not this board, the town board had the ability to further go forward with this stuff, but they declined to. And in the words of the court, the bad faith was so obvious.
I guess part of
it's under both the federal and state constitutional law.
I guess part of it is
that day.
If you believe you have already been approved for all of these things with a large swath of leeway, what is the inhibition to just make clear what your intention is?
Plans, these are
But they're not detailed. They're not detailed. And that's fair enough if you choose not to, it's fair enough if you choose not to enter, but if you are so comforted by.
I'm not comforted. A Supreme Court order said that I was supposed to approve these. And you've appealed, and we'll see what happens. You know, I've been a litigator long enough to know that there's never anything that's a lock.
Yeah,
and sometimes you walk into court, think you're gonna win, and you get a surprise from the judge. Sometimes you think there's no way you're gonna get through it. And you do, but as it stands right now, it's res judicata. It's the court approved this. And this is I'm not casting any aspersions on this board because you didn't even have the jurisdiction at the time.
Yeah, that's very clear. It's not pertinent with the subject we're actually here for.
Excuse me?
That is not pertinent to what we're discussing. We're doing the site plan. We're not doing site plan. We are doing.
Sketch plan.
Sketch plan.
Agreed,
It has nothing to do with that.
100%.
So let me just speak up here. This is a confusing application, not anything to do to John. The nature of the application and this kind of bifurcated process. The applicant went into the town board, right, for this, I guess, over 6,000 square feet or something, to meet site plan approval. And the town board arguably did not act in a timely manner. I don't want to comment on the ultimate decision, but that's what's being litigated. When I say bifurcated is the applicant went in for a house application to build, get approved to build a house on the property, which is at the moment unsubdivided.
Yeah.
You don't have jurisdiction over that,
Exactly.
okay? But what you do have jurisdiction is over subdivision.
Exactly.
So sketch plan involves the layout of the lots and potentially things within the lots. For example, under your code, you can require in appropriate cases conservation easements. You can impose building envelopes. You have the right to determine where the access should be taken. That's one of the reasons we're talking about the driveway. And it gets very complicated because you have potentially an approved plan for the residents, actually, at the moment, does have court approval. Obviously, the town board is appealing that. And yet, the applicant, having not yet built these improvements, is in before you for subdivision. So even, I'll admit, even for me, it's kind of complicated. It's a confusing situation. So, you're asking good questions. We're gonna have to resolve this. I'm gonna have to go back and bring myself up to speed and all the things that went before then. But there are two things going on, one of which is the actual house improvements you are not involved with. The other is the subdivision and how that land, to a certain extent, how that land can be used after subdivision. Things like building envelopes is your purview.
Right,
So-
but in the sketch plan, post-sketch plan, in the next stage, we can be doing more around envelopes and such, correct? Because the sketch plan is just basically an outline of.
Yeah, but it's hard to split the two. Let's take a traditional.
Well, on this one, if I may, it's got, Rick, if I may, you've got basic layout here. You've got a large lot by the water. And you've got two lots up on the road, which is the only place that they're going to go. I think that's pretty
But
clear.
David's asking
Good
about.
point.
If I may, in my letter, one of the things I said to you is these are those lots up on the street, are very large. Of course, we're gonna have to talk about building envelopes, we're gonna talk about clearing restrictions, just from a self-protective point of view, there's gonna be clearing restrictions there. You're not gonna be able to go in and take down all those trees. It'd be foolish. It'd be horrible. Those people.
Theoretically, you could without.
Theoretically, you could, but I'm just, in terms of good faith, I've been doing this for years, that's the sort of stuff that you guys are gonna wanna see, and I'm willing to engage more, and not only engage, but implement those sort of protections on this piece of property. All of that is more appropriate down the road. That's all I'm saying.
And I'm actually agreeing with you.
Yeah.
And you're making it very difficult for me to agree with you, argue with it. But
I'm not arguing with you, I said, you said that's down the road, and I said, agree, 100%.
I have some questions about the general geometry of the site. They're more engineering questions, so perhaps I know you're an insights, but you're, sorry?
Planner.
Land use planner. So you're not a geotech by any,
No.
okay. But in the land use planning, you must, of course, have understood the area proposed for this house, which is to some degree not really a function of the subdivision, because I assume the house was here before the subdivision was even dreamed of.
there's nothing there.
There's no house.
There's
I
nothing.
realize the house is proposed, for crying out loud. The house was here on site in drawing.
There's nothing there.
Nothing's
I'm
been built.
talking about this piece of paper, okay? I'm not talking about the site.
Let's settle down, please.
This is where they proposed and designed the house. That was my question. Which, from a land planning standpoint, is possibly, except for here, a very difficult place to build a site. I mean, the change in elevation, as you know, is from here to here, approximately 6 stories. Yeah, it goes from 10 feet to 70 feet.
Yeah, but
That's,
that's not fair, because 100 feet of that is.
well, it's not a matter of fair, it's a statement of fact. The change of elevation from here to here is 7.
false benchmark because we're 100 feet back from the setback.
I understand that. I'm looking at the contour lines, not this red line on the paper. This is 10 feet. This is what, about 15 feet here? I don't know if it was on this other.
These are site plan.
I think some.
20 feet, 10,
Some-
oh, I'm sorry, you're wrong. This is a 10-foot contour, this is a 70-foot contour.
David, ask.
Would you like to look at the little numbers on here?
No, I said.
My question is, this is an extremely difficult place to excavate. You will be clear cutting this entire thing. You'll be,
Which we're allowed to do.
Which we're allowed to do.
it's a statement of fact. I'm talking about the stability of the slope and potential effects, which are really geotechnical questions, which I'm not qualified to weigh in on. Which I'd love someone to give us from the board standpoint, a technical review, because I think this is a very difficult construction site. You're not showing any disturbance on the uphill side of the sheathing, which, I don't know if that's possible. I mean, I assume there's gonna be some disturbance.
No, you're.
Yeah, I know what sheet piles are.
There's no disturbance on the other side of the sheet piles. They're driven in.
I'm not sure that's accurate. But in any case, there's a lot of disturbance here. There's gonna be, would you say this is because of instability at the slope above? None whatsoever. Okay.
It was reviewed by two contractors and an engineer. There was a construction protocol that was all discussed during that time frame. It was submitted to the town as part of that. And so it was looked into at the time. And with that said, the object that is before this board is just whether or not the shape of the lots and the location of the lots makes sense. The proposal that the town board had reviewed under both the wetlands permit code and also the special permit code, it met the setbacks that was there at the time and also that still exist, and it can fit. So there's nothing in the town code that states that we can't put it there. So right now, this board only needs to say, yes, the sketch plan makes sense. And then we can go forward with the actual preliminary site plan where all of the additional details will be discussed.
If indeed, and that's a very tricky legal question, if indeed there's even any jurisdiction left on that. Remember, you have a court order saying the town should issue the permits.
Yeah, we have a court order on a site which after the subdivision will no longer exist. So that's still a question in my mind.
I think you're being very fair, and that is my fundamental question, and you clearly raised it as a question too, is that, look, I get it's very unclear and we don't need to litigate it. You are allowed to build X square foot of house, boom, right? Then it's all the ancillary questions, and it's not clear whether the judge will reconsider how they consider the idea of damage to wetlands, clearing of wetlands. We can clearly impose some restrictions on that.
That should be so. Really, this is a discussion that you should have.
And fair enough.
And with your counsel. Really. And he may disagree with me, and he may agree with you, but I think it's important.
And if you're trying to be expedient, I appreciate your indulgence. I'm trying to understand each other of like where, if you're trying to be expedient and it's really just down to, look, it's the lot layout and all of the thing, if we approve it, all of the idea of amount of clearing of wetlands, how, all of that stuff is a later on thing.
There's no clearing of any wetlands going on. You misspoken. There's no clearing of any wetlands going on.
You're clearing within the 100-foot,
That's a setback.
within the buffer.
Can I just offer,
Fair enough.
the questions that you're asking, Sean, and that David Kriegel is asking, the only way that these would be pertinent is if let's say John were to answer, or you were to answer, would that change your mind about where the lines have been drawn? That's what you really have to ask. In doing that answer, does that change it? If I'm understanding correctly, is that what we're getting at here?
Yeah, I just don't know where else you would put these three lots. I think it's sort of what we call, well, res ipsa, it sort of speaks for itself.
But I like what you're asking, I like what Dave is asking, but I think this might be a better opportunity.
It's a second stage
Once we get
question.
into them.
Just in terms of expedience, I spent over 2.5 years with a planning board recommendation of approval to the town board, a DEC either approval or non-jurisdiction letter, I forget, a health department approval.
Freshwater wetlands approval and a final wetlands under.
Back and forth, every bit of information that the town board asked for, I gave to them. So a 2.5 year period, and then finally, I had to bring a lawsuit because the town was refusing.
Oh, wait, so we understand the
What was the
history.
planning board approval for? I thought the subdivision.
Planning board gave, on a referral, recommended approval of the permits, yes.
But that had nothing to do with the subdivision.
No, absolutely.
So I'm not sure why it went to the planning board. if
At the
there was no
time, the
subdivision.
procedure was that the town board referred both of the applications before them, the over 6,000 square feet and the wetlands permit application, to the planning board and to the Conservation Advisory Council.
For advice, or just an opinion.
For their opinion on the matter, and they recommended, and this board at that time issued a memo to recommend approval of the application as it was designed.
Can I just offer also, when we got this application back, Jessica did distribute the whole package of
Right.
all the previous, including the current litigation and all the history on it, so.
I read all of it.
You have so much more
I know, I've
than you
looked at all of
typically
it.
have on a sketch plan application. You have like so much more. You don't even get anywhere near the site plan detail on a typical sketch plan application. You probably just have to look at the National Parkway thing that you looked at. Nothing like this. It's a fully designed, permitted house. So, I mean, it's actually very helpful to you, I think.
If we were to approve the sketch plan, that doesn't cast aside any of your questions, and we can still.
Yeah, I mean,
Which we can't do right now anyway, because we have to go get jurisdiction.
Right.
So it's all kind of.
Well, that is true. That is true also.
So, gonna get the coordination from some of these.
Yeah.
Yes, Rick's office is going to do that for us. Okay?
Thanks, everybody.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Rick W, sorry, at this point. Rick and Rick.
Rick and Lefferts.
It's just.
I understand, but we do have to make a decision on whether to approve this tonight. Yeah, to approve it tonight.
No.
Or do we, can we wait?
We have to wait for agency.
I think it's an action of the secret, so you have to.
Okay. Okay, I'll just double check them. All right, are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right, Robiner subdivision, another sketch plan that we are waiting on, so we don't have any further information right now. White performance bond, still under current town attorney review. That's actually in your department now, Rick, because your firm is our town attorney. All right, so we're done with our subdivision application section. We're going to move on to wetlands. So we have Sims 31 Peconic Avenue. I'm going to have to recuse myself on this application because I am a neighboring property of the applicant. So I'm going to turn it over to Marcus, and someone can just get me when when you're done. Thank you.
I'm gonna get some.
You Sims as well.
What was that?
You Sims as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
How should we open this up? Greg, do you want to talk about this, or should we let the applicant?
Maybe he could give a little history of
Sure.
kind of how we got where we are, so to speak.
Once again, Michael Shiano, from InterScience Research Associate on behalf of the applicant. I also have Kristen LaSalle from Science here, and Lan, who is the daughter-in-law of Lynn Sims. Both her and her husband, Carrie, have been involved in the project from the beginning. I would just want to start by saying that, yes, there was a violation issued on the site because they kind of did more work than they should have. However, the nature of the site is that it is going to be Lynn Sims' home. Lynn Sims is Carrie's mother, his 90-year-old mother, and they initially got a building permit to do renovation work to the house, and they were hoping that they would be able to stay within that under 50% in order to get the house done for her as fast as possible. And then what happens on these old houses a lot, you start taking sheetrock down, you just find all of the problems that you could potentially find. Termite damage, wood rot, parts of the house were not, parts of the structure of the house were not installed properly. So then they decided to push forward and hope that, I guess in this case, they wouldn't get caught necessarily. But Brett Polishek was next door, and so he saw what was happening, and he said, "You guys got to stop and go through the process." So we got both Lan and Carrie came to InterScience to say, can you help us out with this application? So then we took it and we looked at it and we said, okay, so what can we do to give you guys a balance, give the town a balance on this? So they had already went through the process and had an IA septic system upgrade that was already part of the plan that they were doing. The existing cesspool is on the wetland side, so it's very close. It's within the 75-foot vegetated buffer. They're moving that onto the more than 100 feet away. They are proposing to decrease the overall coverage by removing as much decking as possible within the 75-foot setback, and also reducing the amount of decking and structure that is within the 100-foot setback by 663 square feet. And we also designed for them a buffer, a vegetated buffer that's 3,884 square feet. It consists of plants that are on the town's recommended native planting list, and they're just hoping that that this can come to kind of a quick conclusion so they can finish the house for Ms. Sims. So we felt that we've given the town a good amount of mitigation and benefit. Oh, and also there's going to be drainage on the site where there is currently no drainage. So the site is going to be better afterwards. So I hope that board can consider that as part of their review.
How many square feet is the house?
1,300, something like that, not including decks.
And the redo of the house
1,100.
expanded it just slightly, is that correct?
There was a slight expansion towards the landward side.
But net with removing the deck, there's still more being removed from the buffer.
Correct.
The expansion is a covered entry,
Yeah.
not enclosed space.
And only a very small sliver of that is less than 100 feet from a wetland.
And what is the plan for the separate structure?
It's going to be, well, it's going to be a shed. It's going to be storage, right, Lynn? Yeah. So if you're wondering if there's more plans for it, so I guess they're going to paint it.
Sorry, just let me, two things. So I guess questions for me is, that was an approved structure already grandfathered, there was permits for it, is that
Prior to
code?
I know it existed prior to the wetlands regulations.
Okay.
We are working to confirm that it was existent prior to zoning. But part of the issue is that there were a bunch of trees on, I've been looking at aerial photographs.
Yep.
Going back, and there's a lot of trees on the site, so it's a little bit hard to tell, but we're looking into the documentation of it to,
And if you could just be clear of, I don't think there's really a foundation there. There's some decking outside of it. What is the real plan for that? Is it going to be taken apart and rebuilt? Is it going to be, are you going to create more of a foundation and build something? And I don't recall, are the decks are close? Is it going to connect the decks? Like, what are you doing with that part of it?
My name's Lan, as Mike said, I'm the daughter-in-law of Lynn Sims. That shed was, like Mike said, we're not exactly sure when it was built. I think the Murphys, who are the original and only owners of the house, they built it at some point along the way. We have not focused on the shed because our main focus is on the house for my mother-in-law. We assumed that we could probably repair it and use it for storage. But most of the deck that's surrounding the shed is actually going to be removed because it's in disrepair. And Sean, to your point, yeah, I think right now the shed is on block footings at best. We haven't evaluated it, honestly. We have only just been focusing on the main house. And just to add to what Mike was saying before, we're not expanding the footprint hardly at all of the main house. I think it's about 30 square feet that we're kind of within the 100-foot mark.
yeah, the portion of the covered entrance,
Yeah.
which is 146 square feet,
And-
only about 30.
Yeah, so our intention has always been to keep the footprint. We're not changing the foundation. We raised the roof, the ridge beam, I think about 30 inches to gain a little bit more height on the interior. But for the most part, we're trying to, just preserve what's there because we want the quickest way possible to finish this project.
And if they were to do substantial work for it, we'd have to come back to town. Because once we go over 50% of the
Yeah, so the
repair
shed-
of that, we'd have to come back. But so right now, we're just trying to get to the point where they can start
Yeah, the
and
shed
finish
is,
the house.
the shed is not part of this application because,
Well, it's a little hard to separate and not know what is happening with that. And you say it's, 50%, like, given the way the structure is, what is 50%? We clearly had a bit of a problem with the house itself. And so for me anyway, I don't have any problem with the application more generally, but not knowing what is going to happen to that makes it kind of incomplete. Like I'd have a hard time saying, we'll proceed with the house and whatever with the rest of it. It seems like it's all part of it, especially because it sits within the wetlands. And so, I think some intention with that for me would be, part and
I'd like
parcel
to
to.
weigh in.
Sorry.
For just a second, please. I have to say something for a few minutes. I think to echo what Sean is saying, for me, even though you don't have the shed really illustrated as something that you intend to rebuild, in looking at it, David and I went in shed when we looked at the overall house. Just personally, I don't see how that could be a 50% rebuild. The walls are rotted, there's no foundation. As you say, it's sitting on concrete blocks. All of the decking around it is totally rotten. The floors inside the shed are rotten. The overhangs of the roof are rotten. Animals are living in the shed, it appears. This is just my opinion. I don't know why you would want to present something that you want to expedite getting completed and propose retaining something that is wholly within the wetland setback like that.
We did not propose to keep it. We're just not saying that we're doing anything with it.
So I guess,
I
guess the question is if you're clear of, we're gonna remove it, we're gonna take it all out because it's mush. And we will come back to you if we want to rebuild something. I think that would be very much clearer. But since you haven't stated that specifically, we don't know whether you're going to try to say, we're going to use 50% rule and we're going to start fiddling with it. And, you know, like, we just don't really, we don't know what the picture is there.
I mean, you're here, and to put a liner at it and say shed to be reconstructed, I mean, you can do it as of right, essentially, as long as you have a permit, you can reconstruct it. There may be some setback issues with the deck in the back and the way it's measured. The survey is measuring to the corner of the building, not to the corner of the deck, which is only about 8 feet. But whether you take it off or not, rather than having to come back here for a separate application, before it falls down, at least I think we can approve the reconstruction of the shed as part of the application. Because it's grandfathered in, you have your right to have a shed there. Why not just include it in the scope, even if you're not going to do it immediately? You don't need to file drawings for it. That's the building department's problem.
I think we weren't sure how it would, to be honest, I wasn't sure how it would affect the look of the application. So, and
another square and it'll say shed to be reconstructed.
Right.
David, I have a different opinion, but about doing that. I mean, I think that if they are wanting to expedite finishing the house, they should get rid of that shed. I think it's.
Well, then they won't be able to put it back.
That's right.
Because then it would be considered new construction.
That's exactly right. But they are, you know, doing the new deck. They're doing the deck in front. You know, the rest of the house proposal seems very straightforward and logical. It doesn't seem much to, you know, propose mitigating the site by removing it.
we are proposing to mitigate the site by removing 660 some odd square feet of decking. We do not have, so I understand that in the board's view that it is not in great shape, but they could just paint it and then use it as a shed.
I don't think so. You could, I didn't want to walk in there because you'd fall through the floor. It's a liability. I mean,
it really
literally, it's a liability to have that thing. And
Yeah,
you know, you're going to have
It's not an
animals
asset
living in
for
it.
your property.
Well, I disagree, actually, sorry. Only because, you know, we haven't had an in-depth conversations with our contractor about, again, what to do with the shed, because our focus has been on the main house. Both my mother-in-law and my husband are both artists, so, you know, one thing that we were talking about was to make it a painting studio. You know, kind of put plywood floors on the, you know, on the floors, try to patch up and repair as much as we can, and make it into either storage or, like I said, a painting studio. But, you know, we would hate to lose it because it does have a certain charm to it. It has been there for a while, and when my mother-in-law purchased it, you know, she, you know, had ideas of using it. So it would be a shame to give it up since it's already there. And we would probably need to have more conversations with our contractor to see what's involved to make it usable.
Yeah, well, what's involved, it's building a new shed.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess it, you know, it's like Boo Radley lives there. It's a charming thing, but I think it is a liability. And once it falls down, it's going to be harder to get a permit to rebuild it. So I don't know. I mean, I understand what Greg's saying, and, you know, maybe is this an opportunity for us not to have another building in a wetland setback? Yeah, but the code says if you have an existing building in that 75 to 100 feet with a permit, you can rebuild it. I mean, unless you like
I mean, I think there are, fair enough, I think there are some nuances in that, you know, if you really try, like, hey, we want an artist studio, then we're going to try to build a little more of a foundation than what exists now, then you're starting to be, you know, hey, this is more, you know, more invasive in the wetlands than what exists today. From what I'm hearing, and I only speak for myself, I think we want you to be able to move forward, but your idea of not addressing this to expedite it is one, is like, is actually problematic because you actually need to address it. And so either we're going to tear it down, we're going to rebuild it, and this is how we're going to do it. I actually, when I saw it, my own opinion is, because I love preserving wetlands, is if you're going to have to actually rebuild it, move it back a little bit, you know, and maybe then you can connect the deck to the rest of the house and it has a more natural flow. I would suggest you give it a month, come back in a month, answer that question, and then you're good to go. That would be my suggestion.
You've heard a lot of opinions about it.
Okay, well, the one that I need to hear is from my mother-in-law. So,
It's not the town board that makes the final decision.
yes.
So we just advise.
Mhm.
Yep.
How much decking total is being removed? 600 and something square feet?
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's 600 and.
There's another little shed of some sort on the other
That's
side.
going.
Yeah,
That is
that's
being
being
torn
removed.
down, yeah.
That's being removed.
How much has already been removed before you got caught?
No, none of the deck has been.
So,
The house was essentially,
well, the deck on
Reconstructed
the
from the
water
foundation
side
up.
has been removed, hasn't
it
it?
wasn't expanded.
No.
So in the regulated area, you're going right on top of the same foundation.
Say that one more time, I'm
In
sorry.
the regulated area, you're right on top of the foundation.
Correct.
You're not expanding it.
You're not expanding it around.
They went, it already had.
Well,
Yeah.
the house did a little, but they gave on the deck.
Right, okay.
The house did a little bit, in which way?
It expanded
No,
slightly, right? Didn't you say it?
The house footprint is not expanded, nor will it expand. The expansion that is happening is a covered entryway
Yep.
on the landward side, and only about 30 square feet of it is within the regulated area,
30 square feet.
Density buffer.
in the adjacent vegetative buffer.
Okay.
Within the 100-foot.
Correct, yes.
Fine.
The only other comment I had looking around was when you figure out how you're framing the new deck, there's that, I forget what kind of tree it is, 24-inch tree.
Yes.
Right overhanging the deck, just to keep your footing out of the critical root
Yes,
zone of the tree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a little masonry wall that supports one edge of the deck, but it's sort of a hodgepodge of structures.
Yeah, that deck wasn't built properly
No.
to begin with, so, you know, we're pulling in the back of that deck to clear that birch tree.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So make a
And
recommendation.
I don't know, is part of the question just, do we refer it to the town board with a suggestion that they clarify what the intent is? And so in terms of being expedition, if they figure that out and present it with the town board when they get in front of the town board, they
Well, the thing you have to figure out, in honesty, is if you came to us and you had exactly what you're going to do, that might mitigate the fact that you did a bunch of stuff that you shouldn't have done, right? Versus not having it fully, you have to go to the board, and I don't know how the board's gonna react to the fact that you did a bunch of stuff that you shouldn't have done ever. They might be in a foul mood and decide to like penalize someone. But if you have a firm, like, we're gonna do this to the shed, this to the house, exactly what we're gonna do, mea culpa, we got ahead of ourselves, but we're doing all these good things, you probably have a better chance, no. But all we're gonna do is make a recommendation. So we can either take what you have, make a recommendation based on what you've done, or if you want to clean it up a little bit more and add more clarity of exactly what you're going to do, then you could do it next month. It's your choice.
And we understand your,
Which would,
we
not
understand
sure which
your
would,
intent.
not sure which would go faster.
Focus.
I don't know which would go
It's just
faster.
It's more consequential than probably you believed what you do with that specific.
Because it's in the wetlands, right? So that's what we're going to really advise on. So we would advise based upon this in the wetlands, it's like with that structure there and given, honestly, with the propensity to go ahead and do something without asking, that I would be concerned. So that would be what we would express to the town. I would write into our recommendation. But if you come and say, we're going to do this exactly, and it's within code, we'd probably say, then it's probably okay. So I'm saying, it's like you probably have, it's in my opinion, a better chance if you're full clear on what you're going to do versus kind of not mentioning, oh, there's a shed there and it's drawn slightly differently. And I mean, that's a little, gives me pause personally.
It gives you pause, just to clarify, it gives you pause the fact that we don't know specifically what we want to do with it right now.
That's what you're.
But also the history of the site
Yes,
together with it.
yeah,
Okay.
it's a combination.
Just want to make sure that
It's a
I'm.
combination of unknowns.
Right.
So is that a choice for them, whether they choose to say, please just refer it to the town board and make your recommendations?
You could tell.
Or whether you would like to come back so that we can make a clean recommendation to the town?
I think it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, is like, this is your submittal. You could say, we had this conversation and we'd like to resubmit an update. That's your choice. Or you could say, no, we want to go with what we have. And then we'll take that from there. It's entirely up to you guys.
Right, I understand. May I also just add, I've heard from
lots of.
4 of the members about the shed, and I'm just wondering what part of this is also, not just on this application, but also a little bit selfish for me as a person who helps people get permits, and I would like to know kind of what the town's thought is on these existing structures that sometimes need to be, because there is kind of a change, I'm witnessing a changing of the town's view on some of these structures that exist and what would like to happen. So I'm kind of also asking you members of the planning board what your thought is on structures that already exist, whether you think that it would be better for, whether we would be able to reconstruct it or not. And if you don't have an opinion or you don't feel like saying that, then I'm not going to put you on the spot for it, but I thought I would ask since I'm here.
Can we go around the room?
Can I just make a comment?
I'm not sure you're going to get a consensus, but
Of course, and I didn't expect to.
yeah.
It's part of the
I just
planning
want to, I just want to echo something that Sean brought up, just very briefly. And that is, once again, the condition of the shed
Mhm.
and the fact that it is in the wetland. And honestly, it is supported by a few cinder blocks that are not even in any kind of
Footing.
foundation. There's no definitive footings. So to make it a stable art studio would require, in my opinion, doing completely new footings and basically creating a new substructure in the wetlands. To me, that is not an existing condition that is just reconstructing, say, above the foundations or above the floor slab. It is making an existing condition worse within the floodplain, within the wetlands. And that's the problem that I'm having.
I agree.
That it's not structurally, well, let me just finish. It's just not structurally, there's no structural integrity on which to build the argument that's an existing structure that's just being augmented. It basically is creating an entirely new structure that happens to be in the location where, frankly, a shack is located now. So, and I do not think that is the intent of repairing an existing structure within the wetlands. So that's, I have a strong opinion about that.
But as defined, and, you know, I can only base these decisions on my reading of the code, and the code is pretty specific. It's, if it's more than 50% of the value, and then they only measure footprint, you know, in the same footprint, it's reconstruction, and in the wetlands set in the 75 feet, that's permitted. Well, it's not permitted, it's permitted with approval of this board.
But you saw the structure, David.
I know, but
a foundation would
it's
cost
so-
more than 50% of the value.
that's what they're saying. If it's more than 50%, it's reconstruction. If it's less than 50%, it's repair.
But you're allowed to do reconstruction.
You're allowed to do
We're allowed to
reconstruction.
repair without a permit, reconstruction, we're also allowed to do with no expansion with a permit required.
With the,
But it's completely,
Do reconstruction with completely
within
new.
the 25%.
the code isn't that specific. Maybe it should be, but it isn't. It just
Seem to be trying to go, from my perspective, I think I personally, I have to avoid the we because I'm just me. I would have a hard time saying you cannot rebuild that structure. But it depends on what and how and what, like, what are you doing with footings? How much digging are you doing? Are you changing the footprint?
impact?
You know, how much impact are you having in that space? From the condition of it, it seems like if you want to have that, you probably crossed that threshold. So the question is, if you really intend to want to do that, why don't you address it now and think about how you'd want to do that? Personally, I would say if you actually have to do refooting and do it in some substantial way, move it further away, because you're basically trying to do a new build of sorts, but you have a little gimme factor because there's something existing. So, you can say like, well, I can rebuild it in place and I can fiddle and try to stay within the boundaries. Or I can say, I'm going to build like a 2-foot foundation, I'm going to do whatever, but I'm going to move it like 6 foot back and create something that can be a real art studio. But that should probably be addressed now than if you're going to do it, so that you have kind of a clean slate.
Can I ask if we are considering rebuilding and moving it, this planning board wouldn't, because right now we have the 75, we have the 100. And my understanding is that any new build would have to be beyond that 100.
Because of the pre-existing, I think I would look favorably on, hey, we want to rebuild this and we're going to move it back a little bit in a way that.
I don't think that's not what the code allows.
Well,
You get outside the footprint, it's a whole.
Yeah, it's a whole new-
Right.
So once we start moving it, then technically the word no.
Looking at
that.
Looking
So
at
we
the-
would actually have to move it back farther than.
The only place you could put it would be right in front of the covered entry porch that you're.
Yeah,
just-
we would
just-
be on-
Everything else
Don't
is
want
setback.
You have a choice.
There's only
Tear
one
it down, you build exactly in place. Those are really your own options.
Right.
In all
I think what
ways,
Sean recommended about
unfortunately.
deciding what you
It's
really
code.
want to do with it and bring it back to us with a plan would give us a better opportunity to review it properly and say, okay, we either say, yeah, okay, you have the right to do this and we're going to recommend to the board, the town board, that it's okay. Or we think it's disturbing the wetlands too much and we may not recommend for it.
Understood.
I mean, I understand, but I hate the wetlands code and I hate the but like the town board just recently approved a house that totally moved, but still kept a piece of it within the wetlands. So why would you tell them that that's not a reasonable thing to actually put forth? Because it's a net benefit.
All I can do is our job is to go by the code. That's our job. The town board can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But our job is to advise based on the code, in my opinion, and that's it. It's not to do what I think would be the better thing to do, because I was not voted into this office.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like a different role, right? So
I'd leave you to make your decisions. I would, personally say that much to my chagrin, the town board has approved things that are still within the 100-foot buffer, even with whole houses moving, and you're kind of like.
There's also disapproved things.
You're,
So it's like,
I know that is, yeah.
yeah.
So I've seen both sides.
Yeah, I don't, like I said, you have.
So I
You may want to come with.
Humoring me on this and speaking about it open, because I was generally curious.
As you look at it, you maybe want to come with two options and say like, what is, if there's something that you prefer or what have you, because I think there is some question there of much of not what I would prefer, but whether there's a net benefit that you could still be allowed to do that.
Mm-hmm. Understood.
Marcus, can I just, the town board has the public hearing scheduled for the 20th for this.
Oh.
That's Monday.
Okay, so we gotta,
As your.
so we gotta hurry up on this.
Well, if we decide to defer it, they would defer it. So it's like,
I just wanted you to be aware.
if we don't have a,
But if we would have to open up a public hearing, we would probably still speak at the public hearing or right, and then.
I mean, if you look at it, what was the big sin here? Is that they didn't get a wetlands permit versus all the good here, putting in an IA system, they're taking out all this decking, and the thing, and they're keeping it the same footprint, 1,200 square feet, the sensible size house, they're not putting in some monstrosity of a house. I think there's a lot of good here. And also think if they came to us with what they have for a wetlands permit, they would have gotten it.
well, I think that we would have asked what they're going to do with the shed. If they came with this as a regular wetlands
I don't
permit,
understand what's the big deal about the shed.
because the shed is in the adjacent area, and we want to know what the plan
But the
is.
thing is, that shed being so dilapidated, it was probably put there prior to the wetlands code of August 2001.
Understood, so if you're not gonna do anything with it, you're not gonna touch it, then it wouldn't be an issue. But what's not clear is because it does look like it's changing a little bit, like some of the deck.
The decking that is around it.
So you're gonna do something with it, so by nature, it's like, I'm sorry, you're pregnant, you're doing something, so you either have to say what you're gonna do, or you can't touch it, from a wetlands perspective, right? It's like, you can't kind of do a little bit.
And I think the question is if you then say, well, you know what, we really just want to proceed, and if I'm correct, and we're going to try to fiddle with the shed within the 50%, and we think we're going to, are you going to find yourself in a violation and back here again because you're at a point with that shed that is, can you really do that? And you thought you could do that with the house, and then you couldn't. That's a decision for you guys of, how you want to proceed.
Right, and it's an honest point. My feeling is that we would like to move forward at least to the town board public hearing. And so I would think, though, this board gets to do whatever it wants, and that's part of the process. But I was thinking that if you want to say that the town board should consider asking us these questions, then feel free to put that into your memo. You're going to do it anyway.
You can do that.
Regardless of what I say, so.
No problem.
Right, and I completely understand all of your feelings on this.
And they may or may not ask in detail some of those questions. They have somewhat of a different mindset. I think we're trying to prepare you so that you can make educated decisions and try to be able to move forward in a holistic manner.
Right.
And could I just add, Mrs. Sims is 90? Give her new shed. Just do it.
Well,
She's not gonna wanna look at contractors next summer walking around building.
that is true.
Yeah.
That is
Go in there
true.
and try to do a proper foundation,
You
it
live
really
across the street
skirts
back
the area, pouring concrete.
That's what I was saying.
That's the question is, what is a,
And if they make a better decision as to how impactful.
Is that shed fell down?
the question is if they want something more meaningfully, then that is what they're gonna want
Give her
to do.
She discovers a new shed.
But,
They can address it and make it as less impactful.
but I think it's clear. So I think we'll proceed, we'll write a memo, we'll make our recommendations that they consider and ask questions about your shed. You consider about maybe in advance how you want to think about that or what your plans want to be, and they'll do what they do. But the rest of it seems,
Yeah, I agree with Marcus with the benefits of the rest of it.
There's no harm in, I mean, if you can come back with an application for the shed, and then, yes, you could get this probably approved much more expeditiously, save a month or two. There's no harm in doing that if we get to see you again.
Can we keep
just engineer costs and lawyer costs.
keep the shed a separate issue?
Yeah.
Which is fine.
And then so you can go forward with the house.
Which is fine.
Well, that's their decision.
I think the big thing is the current application shows some changes in the shed.
It shows some changes to the deck around the shed.
Yeah.
Which is
I'm just,
cut, yeah.
Which may be holding the shed up.
Yeah, and so I think that's the reality. We can't just like ignore the shed because the shed's in the.
I think it.
So we'll raise
Just so
the,
you don't have to repeat what you're going through now, once someone touches that deck, I mean, I think Greg has the same concerns, the whole thing may fall over because, the footings from the shed may be holding up or the footings from the deck may be holding up the shed. So I think there's some sense in, of course, if it falls down, then you can amend the application then, I guess. No,
or that,
you decide.
yeah.
yeah, we'll write
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So you guys have already written, did you guys write something up already?
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
For some reason, I didn't see it either.
I thought I
saw the comments about it, but I didn't see it.
I thought I saw, I think I.
Okay.
Greg got it.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure you got, I mean, I just reply all
And maybe it got buried in the.
Yeah.
It was in the, probably in the link.
I hate it when they all like link.
Yeah, I say we all
Undo that.
review, get feedback so we can get it submitted, right? We'll do it offline.
And I think what I said is, should they be contemplating that, they should add it to the application. I didn't say it's contingent, approval is contingent.
I think we need to put some more stronger words around it, just around, there's changes in the drawings to the shed. That means inherently it's in the proposal. They show the decking different.
Yeah, they're removing a portion of the deck. I can't figure out which portion and why.
I don't,
They're removing a portion.
it's the unfortunate for the folks who don't, I love the people who draw their things where it shows, here's what the footprint was before, here's what it is now. That is so much
They
nicer.
never like to they never like to overlay them both, and then they never like to overlay them both with all the wetland boundaries. Plus all of it. It's all segregated.
One person who does that every single
It's all
time.
segregated, so that you have to try.
We have one person who does that and does it consistently.
So discussion on camera was basically, I just excused our attorney and our engineer, since we only have the two applications left.
Yep.
And actually, Bootsy is next, and Bootsy.
We can apply.
Huh?
Sorry. go ahead.
Yeah, so Bootsy, if you recall, it was given to us, then they asked to have us not look at it because they had to resubmit. So that sort of shelving and tabling until now, we have to reassign it, I guess. You want to do it? Okay, Marcus and,
Looked interesting, I'll go over there.
okay, David Kriegel, and I need one more for Bootsy.
I think I did it the first time.
Do it.
David Austin, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I haven't done one for it
Yeah, that's fine.
yet.
Okay, so I didn't look at it because again, we sort of tabled it and then I was waiting for the
I haven't
new
looked at it.
application, and I'm sure I'm not the only one.
I'll look at it.
All right, so that'll be on our agenda for next month.
Okay.
18, okay.
Okay.
Now, Carpe, I sent you all the previous information, which only Marcus and I know that because we were the only board members at that time. Carpe on 9B kind of came through. And I also spoke, I had a call in with Reed this morning, Reed Karen, our building inspector, and he sent me Teresa Mason's memo, which I circulated to everybody. So a couple things happen here. As you know, our board approved this application in 2023. When Teresa Mason went to do the inspection, she noted a couple things which were on that memo. Namely, the driveway did not comply with what was originally permitted. However, we did explain that that was a slight error on a person at the building department who sort of expediently gave this driveway permit without getting all the.
You and I went and looked at it.
Right, you and I, yeah. But I'm saying that when they went for the driveway permit, it was sort of given without prior knowledge or understanding of the wetlands. So, but however, once Teresa Mason got there, she really didn't object too much because in general that they support people taking out the asphalt and replacing it with gravel. So that wasn't her main concern. But however, she did notice that a lot of the vegetation that was planted, including trees and shrubs and so forth, were not on the conservation list and were completely different than what was approved in our resolution. And furthermore, you might remember the thing about the cistern, that they had a cistern that they said they were not going to utilize. But you were on there. You were there. So
They have that little.
Pardon, I didn't mean to
pit,
exclude
that
you, but you were
stone
there.
pit in the dock.
Yeah, well,
Think about
apparently
that.
the cistern was now activated and in use, so you'll note that in the memo too.
Do we
So
know how that's fed? Fed how?
that's unknown, whether it's runoff collection, whether it's being filled, but the point is they have to go through the whole process of having it permitted, and they didn't, so.
And sprinklers are only permitted in the near shore if you have a cistern.
Grandfather.
Yeah.
No, if you have a
I
cistern.
mean,
Yeah,
actually,
you have a cistern.
Yeah,
It
it's,
can be,
they're grandfathered right now.
Do they have sprinklers?
But they didn't have a system, they kind
Yeah.
of back.
so they have to go through the building department in that process.
Anyway, I'm just giving you the quick summary of Mason, but you all saw it was, I mean, I'm giving a rough summary, but that was what she noted. And so it's back to us because, I mean, I think I was being accurate in saying, and Reed confirmed that they went ahead and did, and now they're asking for forgiveness. They've done these things, and now they have to go back and say, hey, can we put these things in? They're in. So,
Because I remember that was very challenged.
Well,
It's right in the wetlands.
They
It's right in the
here, they took advantage of every single square foot they could.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
Without
that's-
breaking the law, you know.
But the issue is the plantings,
Oh.
you know, they did the wrong planting.
What I didn't get from her memo was she saying, go through the process and get it all approved? Because the objection is you hadn't gone through the process, but I don't see a specific opining on what they used versus what they were supposed to use. And I don't know if that's implied to some degree in the way she says, sounds like they should just go through the process.
Well, I mean,
Like, and that's an assumption of, you know,
Hold on, I'm gonna look.
she's okay with what's there, but she didn't say it that I saw, like, I object,
No,
these are not.
this is
like-
it, I'm looking at number 2.
Yeah.
It is recommended that the applicant submit a revised revegetation and landscape plan with the required wetland permit modification request. That means what was in the original wetland permit.
I mean, that's not clear to me of whether she's in saying replant or submit a new plan with the new stuff.
for her to really.
Maybe not, but I don't know plants well enough to say, would she substitute those, like, that's the question,
What
right?
what she's saying very specifically is all the things they planted, which is in this list, they aren't deer resistant, they're basically not native, basically, they're not supposed to be there.
Yeah, they're not.
And so, let's say, resubmit with that, so then we can say, hey, those are the wrong ones, and then we can decide, do we let them get away with it? That's up to us.
But she does, in her defense, she does say the revised plan should provide both the common and scientific names as well as the container sizes and proposed
But that's
density. That
what's
almost
not-
seems like,
That's what's not clear, because
I
if it's already
see what you're-
planted, right, then they wouldn't give container size. So I was a little confused by that, and maybe that's just, I assume maybe she was giving the benefit of the doubt rather than you're pulling it all up and replanting it. The plan, I believe, says, just because you said deer resistant, I think part of the things that they were trying to do is put things in that deer aren't eating. So I think it's Ilex galabria, whatever, I forget what the
yes,
French name of it. Deer are eating that now, even though it's a native. And so I think they were trying to avoid the deer, eating their stuff. I can't tell you off the top of my head whether that's a reasonable
well, okay, but
alternative to what's there.
she also mentioned that some of it's planted at a density, which is not
Well,
going to
that's-
result
yeah.
in good growth.
I don't know what you do with that. Those are
Well,
big
you have
trees.
you have to thin it, you have to thin it out. You're
Yeah.
gonna have to.
Or because they're going to die over time and then,
I think
you know.
it's the classic problem of, we said you
Do this, and
approved,
you didn't do it,
you
yeah.
approved to do, and they didn't do it.
Right.
And so our choice is out,
I remember
accept it, or do we go back and say,
Yeah,
no, you have to actually do what we said?
And
That's my
I have no problem with saying, go back and do what we said kind of thing. I think the question is, what I don't have a sense of is whether she thinks a lot of it could stay,
Well, we should ask,
But,
as part of the
yeah,
process, right?
like whether we go back to her and say like,
Recommend the town board ask us.
yeah, could a lot of it stay? What do you think is totally objectionable? Or are they all dependent on irrigation, because they're not native and, if we, that kind of line of.
So that's something that we can pose it to the town board, saying
Yeah.
that these are questions that they should ask first. I'm taking
Yeah.
this as you're hearing it.
Yeah.
Or, you could say, hey, they didn't comply, I'm throwing it out that they didn't comply with the original wetlands stipulations, and hence it all should come up and they put the right things in.
I think our recommendation, in my opinion, should be
Yeah.
go with the easiest thing, because this is, since we're not in charge of wetlands anymore, okay?
Right.
So it's like, our advice is, follow what we said, and the town board can then decide if they want to.
Yeah, and/or get advisement from the
Advice,
whatever engineer of whatever, or whether any of these are acceptable, reasonable alternatives. And
I'm a bit disappointed, because I remember this application,
yeah.
and it was a great application, and we used to
It's gonna be a
actually
permeable driveway.
we used to refer to this application because they
Right.
stated
Like the right
the
thing to
footprint
do,
is the
yeah.
right thing to do, and then.
yeah,
That was one of those ones where I felt like we.
let's talk to Christian about this one.
What?
Let's talk to Christians. You guys do.
Okay.
Can't comment on that, but.
So who's gonna do this one?
Well, I'll put together I mean, do we need?
I mean, I never like when people don't really follow the letter of the law, but I also give some grace of, you know, a landscaper comes in and says, well, the deer are gonna eat all that, you could do this instead, and they go, okay, and they don't realize that that's actually like varying from.
Well, again, but that's on them, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I wrote the law, I didn't realize it was a law. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
they very specifically went and got a wetland permit. Very specifically.
They understand.
You had this stuff. So if they didn't talk to the council, it's like,
So
whatever.
for now, what I'll do is I'll just put together like a rough skeleton just to get us started, but
Yeah.
we won't put the finishing touches on until we've all, I mean, I'd like to go back again since I was there.
I'd like to go look at it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, everyone should be going to look at this, but
It's a
who
challenging
wants to-
situation for them because there's water.
It's in the wetlands.
It's a little island with
yeah.
roads to it.
Yeah.
Well, and, just as a side note, I never knew that there was a part of Peconic Avenue that sat over there.
Yes, it's.
I was very confused because I live on Peconic Avenue, I was driving up and down the end of it going, where is this, you know?
That's where they go to the reach front.
It's all the way around. It's on the other side, actually, right? It's on off Bootleggers,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
across from Crab Creek, like if
Yeah.
you stand where you were.
Access through
Is it the
Bootleggers, right?
last house on that little?
No, second to last, there's an older
It's one
gentleman who's
before.
on the end.
You access it
further.
through Bootleggers by going up the road back there, yeah.
And then, and actually, that was one of our things with the easement and construction vehicles and all that to not affect the neighbor, so.
Yeah.
All right, is that, so who's going? Let me,
When you get here, Marcus, were you, or you've all gone? I'm doing it.
all right, I'm gonna go, Matt, and one more.
It's just like old times.
I can go if it's.
Craig, you wanna come? Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Okay. Are we good on that? Okay, now last, I'll just run through this really quickly and then we can adjourn the meeting, but, so, I wrote to you all that I touched base with Rick Whalen, our attorney, early last week, and I just reminded him that we sort of exhausted our time with the site plan review legislation. We got through the whole draft. His co-attorney has access to our share drive, so hence they can see all the comments. They also have YouTube, he took notes. So he's gonna work up a draft for us, just for now. We didn't get an answer from the town board, so Gordon and Meg, I sent you a memo on the behalf of the town board asking us, on behalf of the planning board, just asking a specific question about how in-depth you want us to go with site plan review. Did you want us to just stick to commercial applications, or did you want us to look in residential? So whenever, I know you guys have a lot going on right now, but
Keep it commercial.
keep it commercial?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so that's good then, because I did task Rick with working up a draft for us to then relook at. I felt at this point, we just needed a thing to look at rather than
Yeah.
just rehashing it again.
So my question is, I think that when we were talking about wetlands code, we said, well, we're looking at site plan, so, you know, let's deal with one thing at the time. If there is a wetlands draft out there, I don't see why we don't start that process with
I
us
think we
if
can
we're.
start it now.
Yeah.
I think it went to CAC first, didn't it?
So we can send it
So
to you. We're
let's,
just waiting for you to be done with site plan.
I think because we have to wait for Rick and we can move on to the next, that's fine, good.
I'll make sure that Christina sends it to you.
Okay,
That's great, yeah.
all right, so somebody is making a
And we'll
motion to.
presume and put it on the agenda for next meeting to at least start to delve into
Yeah,
what our
let's see
comments
how
on the
we-
wetlands
I
code.
mean, I don't know, we'll see how soon Christina can get it to us and we can do some work on it for next
Yeah,
meeting.
great.
Sounds good. And I'm sorry, David, you were about to.
I made a motion to adjourn.
All right, all in favor?
Hi, thank you, everybody.
Ready?